Hey class, I'm actually really disappointed to not be able to meet together this week, Thursday, just on the basis that I really am excited about this class, especially the first book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. It's just awesome. It was great to kind of read through again. So we're not meeting this week. I'm out of town, going on a preaching assignment. And like I told you guys that I would provide a video for you to watch. This is probably going to be, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, somewhere around there. We'll see. But I want to do a few things just to kind of help you guys kind of get started. You can already tell I'm in the mood. Got the picture of Aslan talking with Edmund right here. Let me go ahead and remind you about week 2 announcements. So I'm just pulling this up so that you can see it. There is no in-person class like I was telling you guys about. All this is on Canvas. You can see it. You need to finish reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by Thursday at 2 p.m. That's the objective. You have to be done with it by then. Don't push it any further, even though we're not meeting. You have to act as if we met for class, and it needs to be done by Thursday at 2 p.m. Therefore, because you finished the book, you're able to do the reading inventory also due before 2 p.m. You remember, anything after 2 p.m., it's late, and you'll be deducted some penalties. So make sure that you contribute to the reading inventory there. There's going to be some basic things like summarize, and then it's going to be also questions and insights, things of that nature. So make sure that you do that. Because we still will review some and take a look at The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe when I return for next Thursday. The reading inventory is available, and for number 2, reading inventory number 2, and you can see right here that that's going to be due the next week at 2 p.m. There is no pre-reading for it, but there is the surah, the first surah of the Quran is on 2 of those questions. You're going to take a look at it, you're going to read it, and then you're going to go ahead and answer those questions. That has to be done before class. Aside from taking that reading inventory, there are no additional surahs in the Quran or the hadiths that you have to read. We're going to do that together in class because, as you can see, I want you to go ahead and get started reading that biography on Muhammad by Karen Armstrong. It's going to be a good read. But it's going to take a little bit more time, so go ahead and jump into that immediately once you're done with this. I want to go ahead and preview for you guys what it's going to look like. I'm in my office, but what it's going to look like when we hang out on Thursdays. So for example, with this, I'm going to kind of be going around the room, and I'm going to point to different people, and I'm going to say, okay, so tell us how the book starts. Tell us about the first chapter. And I'm going to point to somebody, and you're going to talk to us about how the book kind of begins. And then I'm going to say, okay, stop right there, and what about you? Pick up the story. So the next person is going to help continue this story so that we can kind of recount it together to put us to the test. You got to remember, class participation is a big deal. We're going to do that, and then we're going to dive into some questions and some insights. Let me go ahead and do this though. I have several copies of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe at home. This is one that I found in my kids' bookshelves right here. I'm turning to chapter 16, and it's right at the tail end of it. The chapter is called What Happened About the Statues. I'm showing you a little insight, and I want you to do the same as to something that hit me. So we remember in this particular book that Aslan is now making all those statues come alive in the witch's castle, and he is going to return back to the fight where Peter and Edmund and others are fighting against the White Witch. And the thing that I really loved about this, because it spoke to me. It says, "Then they came out of the narrow valley, and at once she saw the reason." Talking about Lucy. "There stood Peter and Edmund and all the rest of Aslan's army, fighting desperately against the crowd of horrible creatures whom she had seen last night. Only now, in the daylight, they looked even stranger and more evil and more deformed. There also seemed to be far more of them. Peter's army, which had their backs to her, looked terribly few. I'm thinking about this a lot because, of course, we see this and we want to make parallels to Jesus, parallels to the fact that he came, he lived, he died, he ascended into heaven with a promise to return. And I see this picture of Peter and Edmund and the army fighting, and they have no idea what has happened with Aslan. They're not sure. They're not sure if he's coming back, but they're fighting nonetheless. I just thought that that was really powerful because that's kind of the time that we find ourselves in. We know Jesus has completely conquered Satan, sin, and death. We know that he is coming back. We're not sure when he's coming back, but we know that he's coming back. And that just kind of spoke to me about their resolve to keep fighting, even though they didn't really know what was going to unfold next. And so that was one of my favorite parts. I want you to do the same thing when we get together and we talk. I want you to talk about your favorite parts of the things that we read. It continues on, and this is the picture that you're seeing. That's Edmund, that's Aslan. They're talking after the battle. This is chapter 17 of the book. Just listen to this for a little while. It says this: "The battle was all over a few minutes after their arrival. Most of the enemy had been killed in the first charge of Aslan and his companions. And when those who were still living saw that the witch was dead, they either gave themselves up or took to flight. The next thing that Lucy knew was that Peter and Aslan were shaking hands. It was strange to her to see Peter looking as he looked now. His face was so pale and stern, and he seemed so much older. 'It was all Edmund's doing, Aslan,' Peter was saying. 'We had been beaten if it hadn't been for him. The witch was turning our troops into stone right and left, but nothing would stop him. He fought his way through 3 ogres to where she was just turning one of your leopards into a statue. And when he reached her, he had sense to bring his sword smashing down on her wand instead of trying to go direct to her directly and simply getting made a statue himself for his pains. That was a mistake all the rest were making. Once her wand was broken, we began to have some chance. If we hadn't lost so many already, he was terribly wounded. We must go and see him.' They found Edmund in charge of Mrs. Beaver a little way back from the fighting line. He was covered with blood, his mouth was open, and his face a nasty green color." So stop right there. And of course, I just love the redemptive storyline that I hope that we'll get to talk about with regard to Edmund within The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So much that we can unpack there. Another part that happens immediately next, it says, "Quick, Lucy," said Aslan. And then almost for the first time, Lucy remembered the precious cordial that had been given her for a Christmas present. Her hands trembled so much that she could hardly undo the stopper, but she managed it in the end and poured a few drops into her brother's mouth. Listen to this. "There are other people wounded," said Aslan, while she was still looking eagerly into Edmund's pale face and wondering if the cordial would have any result. "Yes, I know," said Lucy crossly. "Wait a minute." "Daughter of Eve," said Aslan in a graver voice, "others also are at the point of death. Must more people die for Edmund?" So I stop right there, and because of my proclivity towards all things mission, I just love seeing that. I love seeing the cordial that Lucy has to go and to help out her own brother, her own ailing brother who needs it, who desperately needs it. But I absolutely love the response, in essence, the command from Aslan that there are others still, yet gravely wounded, and she needs to go and attend to them. So you see that you can look into that. You can understand the beauty of this story, and how it points so much to us and to the Christian experience and to our lives. So I hope that in many ways you've been blessed by this. We're going to try our best to, I'm looking at a few questions I have over here on the side, but we're going to try our best to talk thematically about some of the things that we're reading, like, so the symbol of Aslan in the story, that's one of them. We want to talk about the theme of sacrifice, the stone table that we see, what the White Witch is, what she represents, how she uses fear and power to control Narnia, and what she ultimately can symbolize in the real world. So we want to look, like I've talked about and what you're seeing right here, Edmund's betrayal and redemption. We want to take a look at that, how he contributes to the overall the theme of the novel, and then we just want to do everything that we can to unpack any components that you have about this particular story, and let's just let the conversation run wild. Of course, all centered on what we're reading, and really enjoy a bit of a book club almost, that we can really get to know a classic and have a great time doing so. All right, so that's what's taking place for our typical rhythm of when we get together. When we meet the next time, we will be talking about The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And then we will also dive into, I know it's a funny combination, but we'll be taking a look at then the Quran and the Hadiths. And I'll have some set things for us to take a look at. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I do think that this is going to be a healthy pace. There's a lot of reading, but aside from these reading reports, we're going to go through this quite smoothly, and we'll have a great time doing that, okay? Bless you guys. I look forward to seeing you in class August 31st. So for the 24th this week, not meeting, but next week, I'll see you then. All right, bye.